Agarwal from Icon Media, your host for tonight. We are again on our Vive Lab series, which is Property Knowledge Matters, and we have again Amir Khwaja from Gambit Property. Let's welcome him. Amirji, welcome.
Thank you, Shelly, and thank you. I just give you the people who are watching us for the first time. I just give a brief introduction what Gambit Property do. Gambit Property is a real estate agent and a property development company. We're based in Melbourne, but we do have a association in all over Australia, and we do property development and real estate. High-end properties in Bayside area, house and land, apartments, investment property, first home buyer we help. So all sort of real estate services Gambit Property do.
All right, and there is a lot of buzz going around in the market that what's the property be like because of Corona and the new market. So let's see how's the 2020 and 2021 federal budget will impact Australia's property market.
Look, Shelly, as you know, these budgets and federal budgets, state budgets will directly or indirectly impact everybody, especially the people who are paying tax and people living in the country. But a lot of people don't understand the technicality of how it impacts directly or indirectly their lives. But especially we are here today to talk about how it will impact Australian property market. So while this year big spending coronavirus recovery budget focus largely on getting Australians back to work and spending again amid the economic fallout from the health crisis, there are some positive outcomes for property sector. The extension of first home, for example, the extension of first home loan deposit scheme with a specific focus on new homes was the key takeaway for property in the budget announced. But there are some other measures that will impact the industry, both, as I said, directly or indirectly, now and into future. Let's just see what are those, what are the key takeaways for property out of this 2020-21 federal budget. So let's direct impacts. While direct impacts for property were limited in the federal budget, there were some key highlights. So mostly direct impacts. I'm going to discuss two main things: first home buyer incentive and finance for affordable housing. Finance first home buyer incentives. So there is an extra 10,000 places in the federal government first home loan deposit scheme will be available to first home buyers this financial years, although the additional places are limited to new home builds only. Under this scheme, eligible first home buyers will only need a 5% deposit of a 20% needed to avoid lenders' mortgage insurance, with the federal government guaranteeing up to 15% of the loan. Finance for affordable housing, the federal government provided an additional $1 billion through the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation to support the construction of affordable housing. Now let's get into the indirect impacts. That's a little bit more because indirect impacts are quite few. So there are several features in this year federal budget that will have a flow-on effects for the property sector, both short-term and long-term. Tax cuts for house hunters, that's very important. The federal government is bringing forward the second stage of the already legislated personal income tax cut, which will benefit about 11.6 million Australian. Middle income earners will receive tax relief of up to around 2,700 for singles and up to 5,400 around that for dual income families this year compared to 2017 and 18 rules. Okay. And a one-off additional benefit worth of about $1,080 per individual will be also available for more than 10 million taxpayers. Putting more money into the pockets of Australians will help prospective home buyers breaks into the property market sooner than expected, as they will be able to save more towards a home loan deposit as well as secure more finance. The tax breaks will also help existing homeowners to pay down their mortgage sooner. Now, the second is job security for future first home buyers. Having borne the brunt of COVID-19 job losses, the federal government is offering incentives to encourage businesses to hire eligible young job seeker under the job maker hiring credit scheme. For the next 12 months, eligible employers will receive $200 per week for new employees aged 16 to 29 years and $100 per week for new employees aged 30 to 35. This measure will boost job security for COVID hit young Australian, many of whom are tenants who are currently struggling to pay their rent. The major cloud helped maintain demand in Australia's rental market, as few tenants will be forced to move out of their homes due to rent arrears. Now, another important thing is which this budget is doing, Shelly, I want to point it out is this budget will invest in livability. So the budget announced include a further 7.5 billion in new infrastructure spending, which will not only generate hundreds of jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs rather, but may also assist in making areas more livable, stimulating future property investment. The investment comes on top of the 100 billion over 10 years previously foreshadowed. There has also been an additional 3 billion commitment to shovel ready jobs, which includes $2 billion for small road safety projects and $1 billion for local roads and community infrastructure program. So another important factor of this budget is the federal government consider very carefully is slowing population growth, which can be a risk for housing sector. Population growth is one of the key pillar underpinning the property market, but with Australia entering its slowest population growth in more than a century, the house market is sort of at risk. To counter this drop in population growth, the federal government says it will focus on attracting skilled migrants and prioritizing onshore visa applications to recover once international border reopen. The reduction in population growth will impact on housing formation and reduce overall housing demand. While we don't know how long border will remain closed, it is likely the developer will feel the brunt of the population growth slowdown. Given that most non-citizen wishing to purchase, they have to purchase new home. Yes, Shelly. Thank you.
All right. So while I was noting whatever you said, so in those indirect points you were listing, you listed job security. Could you just repeat that so that you mentioned some figures over there, so so that our viewers can listen again?
Look, what government did, Shelley, is for the job because a lot of young Australians, especially for young Australians. So what government did is government encourage businesses so that businesses will employ young Australians. So it's $200 per week. Government will give to any business who will employ uh, Australian with the age of 15 to 29, and $100 a week for 1 year. $100 a week for look, it's not a lot of money, but it's good to keep the people working and keep the momentum going. It's all about activity. And $100 for to employ somebody who is 30 to 35 years of age. So that's like a little bit give the people encouragement so that they can keep paying their rent, they can keep, keep the demand intact.
So it will be happening in future, or it's already in place?
No, it's already budgeted. So when the budget is all budgeted, and then it will be for next 1 year.
Okay,
It will be starting now for next 1 year.
That's a really great information. And how the tax cuts and other measures have tipped to help housing?
Look, tax cuts is very important thing. The way government measure how the tax cut and other measures tips to help housing. That's important for us, which we are discussing today. To fast track tax cuts for 11 million Australians, wage subsidies for young workers, as I just explained, for job to keep the job people on job, workers and business incentives underpin a big spending federal budget amid to create jobs to drive Australia out of coronavirus recession. Key property takeaway from this federal budget is the building and housing industry expect the most important budget since World War, and I'm quote since World War II, will boost confidence, construction, and jobs. There were little specifically for property market in the budget, which was all about. But this budget is all about getting people back to work and spending again. The real showcase of this year's federal budget is about putting more money in people's pocket with the hope they will spend it and getting people back to work. There is $50 million in tax relief for businesses and low and middle income earners, and a $98 billion in new spending as the government looks to kickstart activity in the private sector and creates about 950,000 jobs over the 4 years period. Look, I've got this and I read this somewhere. The Great Depression of two world war did not bring Australia to the knees, and neither will COVID will get Australia. It means the Australia will get out that very smoothly, and this budget is very focused on that. The budget was all about jobs, as I said, while more than 11 million taxpayers will get tax cut backdated to first July this year. Then 7 million Australians would receive tax relief of $2,000 or more this year. The key budget, I just highlight few 4 or 5 points about the key highlight measures include in this budget. An additional 17.8 billion in personal income tax relief by bringing forward planned tax cut. Tax relief for businesses totaling $26.7 billion. A job maker hiring credit, which I explained before, hiring credit to encourage businesses to hire young Australians on job seeker. 1.2 billion to help business employ 100,000 new apprentice trainees. This is good for business as well. Two new 250 payments for pensioners and welfare recipients. Expansion of first home loan deposit scheme, which I already mentioned before, especially for new build. An additional 1 billion in low cost finance to support the construction of affordable housing. All these factors will help. If people have a job, they will earn, they can get a finance, they can use all these incentives they're getting from government, and they can buy property or they can hold on to their investment. There are no announcement about extension, which was everybody was expecting. There was expecting to home builder extension or job seeker scheme, after government said that these decisions would be made after the budget. Property industry out of this budget expect a boost, I reckon. Productivity enhancing infrastructure, including local community infrastructure, waste subsidies, and massive tax incentive for builders and tradies to invest means the government is putting in place the right foundation to recovery.
Okay.
And again, I will mention the first home loan deposit scheme extension and affordable housing measures would extend the opportunity to own a home to thousands more people. It will unlock even more investment and further activity. Residential building as the engine of growth, economic growth and economy and employment. The focus on creating job and generating re-employment through various budget measures was good news for the industry, tenants, investors, homeowners, and those wishing to sell. Bringing forward and backdating the stage two tax cut will improve borrowing capacity and housing affordability. And I will just explain these two things, if you allow me, Shelley, on first home buyer scheme, what it is and how they expanded. So the first home buyer scheme expanded, as I mentioned. The first home loan deposit scheme was expanded, but additional 10,000 places only apply to purchase of a new and newly built home this financial year. It can top up of existing agreement of 10,000 arrangement for 10,000 eligible borrowers per financial year to buy home with a deposit as low as 5%. I mentioned it before, with the government guaranteeing 15%. And about 20,000 Australians have accessed the scheme since it began in January 2020. And the government has started the finance measure for affordable housing as well. The government enabled an additional $1 billion to low cost finance to support the construction of affordable housing through the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation. But the only sad thing in this is, um, as I mentioned, we have to wait on home builder extension, which and all the industry was waiting for. So the government opted to wait before announcing it. It will extend the home builder program, which provide 25,000 grant to build new home or sub- substantially renovate an existing home. Property Group wanted the $600 million program due to end on 31st December, extended by at least 6 months. The government, however, indicates before budget day that it will make a decision of whether to extend the scheme close to its end date, which is 31st of December 2020. This is a critical assumption for the budget, which is also vital to the outlook of the residential construction industry, which is big driver of jobs and economic growth. So extension of home builder would be critical for growth in housing during a period of low population growth, Shelley. So they are a little bit, sometimes these things got a little bit boring, but it's very important to understand, a little bit long, but it's very point to point. I did it very briefly, but sometimes these documents are long documents to go through.
I don't think so. It's boring information. It's really helpful.
Now, sometimes it gets, I mean, look, it's related to you, but sometimes it gets, I mean, but you got to understand that this is important. This is important for people who wants to be in the property industry.
Yeah, I hope our audience are learning a lot through you. And we have Ruchita Patel asking the question, I want to buy a property from Super. How much deposit I need?
Look, Ruchita, buying in property in Super, it's very good option. And how much deposit you need? Look, deposit you need at the moment, because in Super you have to buy something ready to go rent, which is ready. So I think the deposit at the moment you want is, you can go as low as 5%. But in normal circumstances, in Super you pay, because that Super, everybody treated this buying property in Super is a little bit differently. Even banks treated it little bit differently. It's highly compliant. You need 10% deposit. If you buy house and land, you need 10% deposit for land and 5% deposit for house. But if you're buying existing home something, you need 10% deposit. And then if you want in detail how to set up the self-managed super fund and how to invest in property using super fund, uh, please contact us. But roughly you got to have at least $100,000 in your super to invest in property. That's viable, because there are some fees, there are something to set up. So that's yeah. You let us know if you want to, but if you have 100,000 or more than 100,000 in your super, yes, you can definitely invest in property, and you need 10% deposit. Thank you.
That's that's a great information. $100,000 in super, and then only. Why is that? I mean,
Look, that makes it because there are some compliance, and there are some thing you gotta keep some buffer, because the super. Look, I'm not expert in super, but I know how it works, and we do have people who can help everybody in super. But this is because if you, let's say, if you're buying property for 500,000, 50,000 deposit you need, then you need to set up a self-managed super fund. You need to keep some buffer. There are some pieces. So altogether, there you can do it a little bit less, little bit more, but roughly that's what the normal thing. You need to have $100,000 in super, and you can do jointly. You can do, husband, wife, partners. You can do in families. You can do with friends as well. So you can do jointly as well.
that's a great option that we can buy it with friends as well, because some people don't have family here. So that's
Yeah.
good. And Amir, I will also ask, first of all, would you like to answer Ajita Namvir? She's asking, I lost my job recently and can't pay my rent. My landlord wants me to leave, but I have no place to go. What should I do?
Ajita, at the moment, from the government, Victorian government and federal government, we all have a your if you don't pay if you can't pay the law, unfortunately, sorry to hear about that. If you lost the job and you can't pay the rent, your landlord cannot kick you out at the moment. Cannot force you to go out at the moment. But if it's already done, I don't know how they can do it, but there is a moratorium from the government. You cannot, if somebody, you cannot get your tenants to force to move out if they are not paying rent, and if they have financial difficulties, and especially if they lost a job. So if you want my help in that, please contact me, and I will help you definitely, Ajita. And sorry to hear that, but we will definitely help and support you. And if you need any place or anything, we can help you to get other place for rent. Even if we don't do rental property management, but we can help with our associate partners who help property management, who do property management for us, and they will help you to get another place. But if you need any other help out of that, I'm there to help you. I'm definitely like to help you and love to help. Thank you.
So I have a question related to that. Till how long this rule is in place that the property landlord can't kick you out of the property if you don't pay the rent?
Initially, Shelly, they did it. Initially, they did started in March, and they said till September, and then they extended it. So it will be nobody at the moment. We have a moratorium till then. Again, I think March. I have to double. I'm not 100% sure, but it's keep extending. It's keep extending because it depends on the changing scenario of coronavirus and the restrictions and the business restrictions and the everything else, because it's all related. If you have restrictions on the business can't pay employees, people losing job. If they're losing job, they cannot pay the rent. If they can't pay the rent, so this is all linked to each other. So there are changing scenario, but we have current moratorium. You cannot, even if it's a commercial or residential, you cannot get you ask your tenant to move out because he's not paying rent. And then if you are in the situation because you're not getting rent, and you will be in a trouble with your mortgage, because as a landlord you have mortgage as well, you have to pay that too. So you can ask banks to, like, this is called, I will explain you a little bit about that tax holidays you have, like mortgage holidays you have. So you can have deformation of the payments, and can ask banks to help you. and government give instructions to the bank to help and support in that regard if it's affecting. And the condition is you have to have at least 30% of your lost income. But in this case, when you lost the job, definitely you lost the job, and this is a very unfortunate and sad part. But government is doing everything through the budget, through the guidelines, to support and people living in Australia.
And let's say if someone is not paying rent and the landlord is not kicking them out as well, so is that rent getting included into the debt? Is it becoming a debt?
No, there is few things, Shelly. This works. This is government guidelines is a moratorium. You cannot kick your tenants out. But how you negotiate? This is a negotiation between tenant and landlord. How they deal with it? Maybe they will say, okay, if you can't pay full rent, maybe pay half rent, maybe pay 50% rent, maybe pay whatever you can pay, or maybe just pay after 3 months, or maybe I just give you a discounted rent for 3 months, or I give this is a negotiation between landlord or tenant. There is no guidelines from the government how you deal with, but in any case, you cannot kick or you cannot force your tenant to move out. But look, this lot of things will happen, Shelly. People do that, it will happen. It's no specific guidelines, but you have a moratorium, but at the same time, they will say, okay, you're not paying, then September, October, November, whenever the moratorium finished next March, then they build up the debit, and still that tenant can't pay the rent, and then the moratorium will be finished. When that will be trouble time. That's why government is focusing more on jobs, so that people can keep the jobs. If people have the job, we will be out of trouble for a lot of things, because that's most important. And the real estate and property industry, or rental market, or sales market, they all depend on the income of the people.
Okay. So Amir, also, what is the update of Melbourne and Vic property market as of September 2020?
Look, if you see, we were all hoping that job seeker, all these things will finish in September. Obviously, we have a job keeper extended till March, and with the reduced payment. But I think, but still, and then some of the activity allowed to do in real estate market, where you can do private inspections by appointment only, and you can do an inspection for appraisal, and there is no 5 kilometer guidelines as well. There's restrictions that if you want to do inspection, you can go more than 5 kilometers, so which is good. So if you see how the Melbourne property values perform over the month, and what impact did travel bans especially have on the regional markets. In September, Sydney and Melbourne reported price fall, as all other capital cities rose. So all other capital cities get a price rise, but Sydney is still fall. Melbourne property values were the hardest hit, which is down 0.9% to a median price of 666,000 approximately. The rate of decline has, however, eased over the month, so it's good. It's getting better. I think Sydney and Melbourne, Shelley, will continue to experience price decline due to border closures. With restrictions started to lift, and private home inspection, as I explained, once again, going to be more. We expect to see activity in October and coming months. Overall, the value of property regional Victoria remained unchanged over September. Regional Victoria has largely avoided the larger drops in value seen in Melbourne, as even though the entire state has been subjected to restrictions, stage 3 rules still permitted private inspections and lot other activities. Regional market across the country have been outperformed capital cities over the past few months, and the number shows that regional Victoria is no exceptions. It's the same. It's doing better than capital cities, and it looks like consumer confidence, which is very important. It looks like consumer confidence is rising too, according to the recent domain data. new listing in regional Victoria have risen by 24.8% over the past month. So I think it's still looking good. If you see the total outlook, what ahead, real estate market nationally will be dealing with mixtures of headwinds and tailwinds. This refer to fiscal support such as job keeper and job seeker, tapering out and distressed borrowers who may put their properties on the market once mortgage holidays comes to an end, as I mentioned. Um, According to the CoreLogic last pain and gain report, they do a pain and gain report. According to that report, some lenders have encouraged distressed borrowers across the country, especially investors, sell their property before mortgage holidays end. That's but I disagree. I agree and disagree to that, because people can, if people should focus on the work, people should focus on people should focus on their activities, people should focus on what they can do, and if they keep the job intact, if they keep their earnings not affected drastically, they will be all right, while there is an exception that distress flood the market. So far, listing being quickly absorbed, which indicates that there are still plenty of buyers on the market. In Melbourne, off the back of ease restriction and returns to private inspections, pent-up demand has caused a surge of listing on the market. The number of listings hitting the market in the past week rose by 241%, the highest level since March 2020. Shelly, thank you. So what it means is market is still doing all right. You got to see the long-term perspective. You got to see how you can keep your income intact, how you're gonna do perform, what opportunities you can see in this current scenario. Obviously, as I mentioned in the last month, people are talking about all these things, but still you got to see the long-term perspective, not short-term reactive thinking. That's not going to help. You have to see long-term prospective thinking and see how better you can do, what opportunity you have at the moment, and how you look ahead to go past this current situation, Charlie.
All right. And previously you had mentioned that government is seeking, putting a focus on the onshore people who can invest in the property so that the market eases a bit.
What's happening is, as I mentioned, is because of the slow population growth, which will impact property market. We already have no overseas migration. I think I mentioned it in the last time that net migration uh, from overseas is very, very slow and gone about 50%, 56% down. So what in this budget government is planning, Shelley, is they will give priority to those people who are onshore. As a lot of people waiting for their application to be to get the PR and all this, so they are planning to prioritize those who the onshore applications, and that will impact, they will be Australian. They are here, they're working, they're doing things, but if people onshore application, if their application finalized, people who are on the, what you say, that bridging visa, if their application finalized, they will be more confident, they can get a good job, they can be contributing to the property market as well, contributing to the activity, to that's a contribute. If you do job, if you buy things, that's a contributing to economy. And if you are contributing to economy, obviously you have more chances to to get the property market push, because it's all about spending and income. And that's this budget is really, I would say, government really taking care of that, but implementing those measures they decided in the budget is key factor, and we have to see how this will help. And I'm pretty sure if we do the right thing, the way government is doing, we will go past this very, very smoothly, Shelly.
I think that's a very great move of government to help everyone who is on shore first, and then let's hope that migrants come in and the property market boots up. And we don't have much question from the audience at the moment. Would you like to add something else, Amir?
Yeah, I think in the end, I want to add this, about this data I gave and everything. It's like, what does this data means for all of us, especially, what does this data means for you? Remember that while data can be very insightful, you need to take any high level numbers, which I explain in this whole thing. All you need to take any high level numbers with a, like a, what do you say, a grain of salt in it. It's really important to do local search if you are looking to buy or sell. While high level indices give a great snapshot of what is happening nationally, in the capital city market, and regionally. They don't give a great insight into what is happening at the postcode level. Market conditions will vary from suburb to suburb, and value of your home is not only impacted by location but also by property type and price point. While there may have been price drop in your city, there are still markets which within cities where performance is above average, I would say. So you have to do your own research as well. That was means, but you can contact us and we will help you to do your own and personal results.
All right. Awesome. So I think our audience had a lot of information, important information from Amir. If you have any questions, you can put it in the comment box and we would try to help you as much as I can. So we bid goodbye to Amir now. Thank you for
Yeah.
being on the show.
Yeah. I just before we go, I think we're running out of time anyway. If somebody asks a question, we have few minutes. We can answer the question. But what I would say is, if somebody cannot ask the question now, obviously, but they can always ask the question. They can comment on this later on, but they can always ask a question by calling us, emailing us, or contacting Icon Media, or contacting directly Gambit Property, or even comment on these videos afterwards. So we will help, and we will definitely look forward to help and support and answer those questions. And I thank you, Shelly, to give this platform so that we can give people. And I really thank Icon Media, Manish, and Kunal as well, to give us this platform so that we can explain people the federal budget and or other property knowledge, which the program says property knowledge matters. That can help people to make their decisions. As I always says, the information is very important for people so that they can get the right information related to them, and that enables them to make their informed decision. And I think informed decision, that's why I believe in informed decision makes a better decisions to get the better results. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for watching. Thank you. Thanks, Shelly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.